It's that time to tickle our funny bones. And to get the session started, I'm going to turn control over to Trent Keneally and his team. Nice to see you.
Marvelous. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Trent Keneally, and I'm presenting myself today. What is Tickle Your Funny Bone? Anybody know? Humor, funny, great answers. Oh, for the people that are on the call and the people in the room, we do have prizes today. And we also have a grand prize. And the grand prize will be voted upon by the people in the room. If you are on the call and you win a prize, please make sure we get your name and your club, because therefore someone who's here can bring your prize back to you. We really don't want to do shipping and handling of all these prizes. Who in this room is funny? Who in this room is not funny? This is a true statement and a fact. Every comic bombs. Every comic has a bad night. It may be a bad audience. You may have said something that they didn't like. As my friend Sharon says, we're going to keep this at the family-friendly environment today. And the reason behind that is because it's supposed to be appropriate. Every funny story has a hook, a line, and a sinker. Fair? Everybody agree with that? So we're going to be mixing up some short stories, table topics, based upon what people believe happens in an adventure. So for example, we could be walking down a path in a forest and we see two paths. Do I take the one less traveled? Now, can anybody in the audience or online, oh, and if somebody's got the chat, tell me who wrote that phrase. Congratulations, you get a prize. So I'm gonna go ahead and put your prizes up here for now. And this is a great Toastmasters notebook. It fits in your pocket, which means you do not have an excuse to not write things down. So as a consequence of this, we're going to make a decision, kind of like an old adventure book, where you say, I go left, and you go to page 43. And we have a pile of these, or you can make up your own. But what we're trying to do more than anything else is we're trying to find the structure that is comedy. If it does not enhance the storyline, what is it called? It is called a tasty nugget. A tasty nugget, and this came from a world championship speaker. It is actually not Mark. I asked him this question yesterday. A tasty nugget is something that you really, really want to say, but it doesn't move the story along. So if you look at it from the 5 to 7 minutes time frame, you need to apply the 20-10-5 rule. Does anybody know what that is? Someone online.
20.
See? We bomb every once in a while. I got crickets. Now, my co-presenter today is Sharon Hill. The neat thing about Sharon is Sharon has enough titles, I've actually got it on 2 lines. She is a DTM times several, I think. She is a past international director. What family here or virtually, the entire family has been either a current or a past international director? Give you a hint, you might want to look right there. This would be Sharon and Elmer. But Sharon, she keeps going. She's like Subi. She's got to go, go, go. She's also an immediate past region advisor. Who could be funny? Everyone can be funny. So I'm walking in this woods and I see a fork. What do I do? Who said that?
Robert Frost.
Calvary, you're correct, you eat. No. And we're going to take the left fork. And it goes to a clearing. And inside that clearing is a dragon. What do you do? Anybody? Sorry? You face it. No, we got table topics. We got a little bit of time. Let's go. Feed him. Oh, no, you just use your fork. So I'm sorry. The rules do not allow you to reuse utensils. But that is the purpose of it. What are you going to do with the dragon? Are you going to face it? Are you going to have a sword fight? Which, to be honest, and we have an equestrian artist in here as well. So our district director says that I need to ride I'm not going to ride my horse. I'm going to leave my horse and run away. Because then the dragon will eat no. Okay, so I'm supposed to ride the horse away. But what if the horse has never seen a dragon? You know that dragons come in multiple colors? What did I just do? Tasty nugget. It doesn't enhance the storyline. But the most important part about this, and you've all seen this time and again, it's the hook. When it's a dragon, you're now involved in the story. Can anyone tell me the one thing that every champion of public speaking has in common? There's one thing that they all have. No, sorry. We've been at Toastmasters for a little while. Humor is in the top 5, yes, but is not the top 1. They made it personal and they connected with their audience. Think about Mark's presentation earlier. He made it personal. He told a story that it looked like it was going to become a tasty nugget, didn't it? But he rolled it into the narrative that he was trying to do. Sharon, do you have any opening words?
Well, I love what you said about humor. And even though humor is not number 1 for all those champion speakers, humor does give a little bit of an edge when speaking, because when a person is laughing, a person is learning, a person is connecting. That's some of the value of humor. Trent, back to you.
Thanks, Sharon. Lefford said something a little while ago that I thought was profound. You don't win or lose, you win or learn. Because you didn't succeed the first time doesn't mean you're not funny. I've had this conversation with our program quality director several times. She thinks that she's not funny. But look at the landscape. There are all kinds of humor. There are people that do deadpan delivery. There are people that jump around. There are people that have different voices. All of them are types of humor. But the one thing that they have in common is they connect with their audience. Something that they're doing matters to someone in the audience. And if you can see that, if you can work the room and make eye contact and use gestures and emotion and vocal variety, and how many of this were in their competent community? Anybody know? Competent communicator plan? Competent communicator manual. Try that one 3 times. There's 10 of them, right? Vocal variety is one of them. Anybody tell me another one? Sorry? Inspire your audience would actually be that's an advanced topic. Body language, yes, body language. Anybody else? eye contact. All of these are part of the curriculum of Toastmasters to help you engage with your audience. Lefford said something a little while ago that I thought was interesting. He said, sugar is like candy for cancer. That wasn't funny, was it? But it was relevant to most of the audience. So you don't have to tell 5 minutes worth of jokes. But what you have to have is structure. If you cannot tell a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, what do you have? A mess, yes. You have a mess. You have a cliffhanger. Because you get off the stage and they're going, was that it? You know, how many people have watched a TV show that got canceled?
Oh, yeah.
How many people were mad at that TV show for not actually wrapping up? It's a cliffhanger. That's how it is. So who would like to take this leap of faith and tell me a story? I'll give you a start. The Arctic. So you are on the expedition to the Arctic. You've got on your big foul weather gear, the big boots. You have your sled, you've got your dog, you've got all these things. And Lefford is both speaking and also coming here. He's cloned himself, either that or gave it over to Mark again. And in the distance, you see a hut. Anybody want to take this one? Please. Yes, you have to stand. We believe in standing in Toastmasters. Yep.
Who the hell is living at the Arctic? And you approach the hut slowly because you realize it must be a madman. And alas, you find out that there's a woman inside. So it's a mad woman who is sewing sealskins and making blankets to sell to travelers like you.
Thank you. An amazing thing just happened, and none of y'all know what it was. Anybody see what's on her badge? She is a first-timer at this conference. Lefford was talking about correction facilities, penitentiaries, in his TED Talk. I actually got the chance with our past region advisor, Charles Gates, you know, team sport, right? Team sport. We got to go to the Allendale Federal Correction Facility. For the record, I was the only person that was allowed in the first time because I didn't have a piece of electronics on me. I had a normal, everyday wind-em-up watch. With 1 day's notice, 120 inmates were there. I have not met a more polite group of people in my life. And we did table topics, but we did it cool that the person who spoke got to pick the next person. Every single person who was there was spot on time. None of these were Toastmasters. So, we're talking about humor, but they made the entire hour funny because they told anecdotes. They told personal things. They made it personal and they connected with their audience. What is humor? Humor is a connection. We use humor in our lives every day. We use humor to raise people up. We use humor to ground people. We could be snarky. We don't know. Now, my friend Sharon is not snarky, but I'm not going to ask Elmer whether he thinks she's funny, because, you know, they are married and he would be obligated to say, oh, yeah, Sharon's very funny. But Sharon's laughing. What's the point? It's a connection. All of these are a connection inside the structure. If it does not add to the storyline, why are you adding it? I saw a bumper sticker this week on the back of a car that said, cautious elderly driver. And everybody was getting out of her way. But that didn't move my storyline about the Arctic, did it? It's a tasty nugget. We are now underground, you know, where we gotta have the lamp and the big boots. I think there's probably a common theme. All these are gonna be big boots. I do have a tasty nugget I'll share on that in a little while. We're coming, and we see something orange on the wall of the cavern. What is it? Somebody online. Nobody? Someone in the room. Who would like to take this one? Remember, there's prizes. Alan. Can you read the story first? You are underground. You are in a cavern under the sea. And in your lamp, you see shining on the wall something orange. What is it? And you please need to go over to the microphone.
Well, just when I thought there could not be any market Orange Theory has not already covered, they came up with a new one, underwater. And there was the big orange sign that you could not resist. $1 sign-up fee, $30 a month. That's the new underwater Orange Theory tactic. Because as if there's not one every mile of each other, they decided to go underwater so all the fish and all the sharks and all the underwater divers could get their orange fitness level achieved. Thank you.
And Alan, you got one of these over here. Or it could have been Jurassic Park. I literally just explained the opening for the movie Jurassic Park. They go into a mine, and suddenly on the lamp, they're pulling out a piece of amber. What color is amber? Orange. So the act of storytelling is about connection. The act of storytelling is structure. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. Yes, you're all correct. If you practice your humor and your speech, it will weed out those tasty nuggets, because you'll realize that it's not moving the narrative. It is not the beginning, the middle, or the end. The thing that people don't seem to realize about humor is a type of speech. That's all it is. It could be a minute of levity you need at the moment. It could be something that it invokes an emotional response. I love this. This thing creaks really well, by the way. Another aspect of humor is healing. I had a friend of mine, they were having a difficulty, and someone had passed. And we got together and we broke bread. And we told humorous stories And in the act of doing that, it lessened the grief. It made a connection, a personal moment. Anybody know what a light bulb moment is? That's the TED Talk. Good try. Right. I was working in a supply chain factory in Pennsylvania, and we were training the staff on a new material handling system. Martha came up. Martha was probably about 70 years old. The story about the dragon actually has a root in reality, because the developers automatically assumed that everybody used a mouse. Martha had never seen a mouse except in her house. We called it Martha and the Dragon. So we called up the developers and we said, are there keyboard shortcuts? Because anybody remember what an old green screen looked like? Did it have a mouse? That's Martha. She had been using a green screen for 40 years. And suddenly we're telling her, okay, move over here and click. Click what? See where the mouse pointer is? It's right there. No, the one on the screen. No, it's right there. Okay, I want you to right click. I need to move it to the right and then click. Again, it's about the context. By the end of the week, Martha could use a mouse. She'd had a light bulb moment. She'd had a teachable moment. And as an educator, Lori, I'm actually going to pick on you in this one. Sorry about that, but you're an educator. How do you feel when one of your students has a light bulb moment? Hear that? Amazing. Because we just encapsulated all of this theory into reality. Speaker, sorry? Successful, yes. You suddenly got it. People want to hear your logic, but for them to retain your story, it is an emotion. How does this make you feel? Think about it as a Toastmaster. Anybody know what the word R means? And no, it's not Jimmy Buffett, and it's not a pirate. I know, sorry. Ari. No. It stands for acknowledge, recognize, and encourage. If you do those three things, people will help you. I had a boss a number of years ago, and he was a hard charger. If everybody knows what that means, he was working 80 hours a week, every week, and he expected his staff to do the same. But the one thing that we knew every single week was he appreciated us. I had another boss that didn't do that. My first boss, we were willing to work over and over and over because we knew that he got it and he appreciated it. The other one, oh, no, I can't do that, it's Saturday. Why? Because he wasn't acknowledging, recognizing, or encouraging us. But it's all about that story. How many people in this room have been an ambassador for Toastmasters? Got a few. If you haven't done it, I recommend it. And I'm going to use the Charles Gates story as an example. Lisa and I and Alan had more than 4 hours in a car with Charles Gates. It was a free-form discussion, and I can't remember a time that I learned more or I really wish I'd had a notepad with me. But remember, we were going to the federal penitentiary, so we weren't allowed to take anything. Lefford drove 6 hours one way to pick up Mark and his wife. Was it a burden? No. Was it a blessing? Yes. Because it is that connection, that personal moment. One of the things that we need to do as Toastmasters, especially for humor, is to reconnect. How many people have been on a Zoom call and there's one camera on? How many people thought that the other 30 people on the call really weren't paying attention? I will tell you that this is a tasty nugget. A lot of times when I'm on those kinds of things, I will find someone without their camera on and ask them a question. You know what happens when you do that? Cameras start coming on all over the call because nobody wants to be that person. And yes, they almost always start with,
What was the question again?
Yeah, what was it? What did it add? What did it add to the story? If it didn't add something to the story, why did you say it? Why did you say it? Humor comes in all kinds of forms. There's one-liners. Now, one-liners have a really good benefit. They're short, so it either works or it doesn't. If a joke doesn't work, please don't double down. Shared this with a few of you. I'm in the middle of audit season at work, and we did an on-site with the manager of the compliance group and one of the new examiners. Now, the auditor, the manager, is about my age. He's got about this much white hair. The examiner was 23 years old. Just graduated from Clemson. And he leads off saying, "Hey, Madison, you remember the BlackBerry?" She went, and I do believe someone in the audience said this earlier, "Isn't that a fruit?" She had never heard of a BlackBerry. Well, then he proceeded to talk about movies from the 80s. And Madison was going further and further and further into her shell because he couldn't realize that he was not connecting. There was not that synergy between them. If they don't understand the hook, they're not going to get the line or the sinker, are they? And if you don't hook them with the story. A few years ago, we had a champion of public speaking at a convention. I do believe it was in Greenville, if I'm not mistaken. And I was doing audiovisual work at the time. And he was having a problem, but the problem was, instead of being out here where it's accessible, the audiovisual board was behind the stage. I was across the auditorium, and I needed to get to it to stop the feedback. They hadn't taped down the cords. I went over tea kettle, right into it. His speech, 18 seconds into it, he falls flat on his face. For the entire weekend, I had people that came up to me and said, "How did y'all do that? That was so well timed." And myself and Darren couldn't stop giggling because we both knew that it was a complete accident. And you ever see that part in a commercial where something falls off and everybody goes, "No!" That projector is in exactly the same kind of position as the one was there. And I knocked the projector off of that thing. Luckily, it didn't break, or else Darren would have been doing sign language for about 50 minutes. But everything's in a context. Who'd like to go next? The next one is going to be a church. It is the early 90s. and you've just gone to the penitentiary and had a lifer tell you where the manuscript was. And you were told it's in a church. Anybody? You do get extra points if you can actually tell me the name of the movie. But I will give you a hint. Please, Michael.
This microphone's really short. Here we go. There we go.
Swing, better swing.
So there we were, outside the church. I went up and I opened the door, and I looked in, nobody was in there. So I went in, and I knew that it was on the third row at the bottom of the pew. I walked up, and I reached down, and the board was loose, just like he said. I took out the one screw holding it in and pulled it out, and there was the manuscript. I pulled it out, and I opened it up, and I found out where the aliens were. I found out who was on the grassy knoll. This has all of the greatest information in the world. Uh-oh. Who's that guy standing up there? It's the minister. Hey, how are you? What am I doing? I'm just here repairing your pew, but I'm done, so I'm gonna leave now.
Can anybody name the movie?
Shawshank Redemption?
No, that was close. Sorry? The Rock. You're correct. Nicolas Cage, The Rock.
Oh.
Why do we talk about structure so much? Anybody know? Alan? Thank you. Now, please, everybody in the audience, remember this is an interactive session, so none of y'all are safe, except for the people who are all face muted on there. I do believe we have something in the chat box. Repeat your response, please. Alan, you want to go say it again, or you meant to tell you?
Malarkey for 5 to 7 minutes, and we all just walk away being like, okay, what was the point of that? So it's really important to have structure in a speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Sure. So, all right, so what Alan did to say was, so we got this malarkey, and it's in a box. And the malarkey must make sense within the context of the box, because otherwise it's just a bunch of malarkey running loose. And the malarkey itself, you know, it should be in the malarkey zoo, because therefore we got to have the beginning, you know, we got to buy the ticket for the malarkey. And then we got the middle part where we're walking to the malarkey. And then we got a conclusion where we see what the malarkey is. Is that about right, Alan? What type of humor did we just use right there? Sorry? A bunch of malarkey. Okay, I resemble that remark. We used a pivot based on a context. So out of everything that Alan said, we focused on the word malarkey. And then we built the structure around the malarkey. It doesn't matter what it is, but think about it from an elevator pitch standpoint. You get on the elevator and Jim says, good day. And you look over at Jim, and Jim has the Titleist bag. We have a hook right now. Oh, you going golfing? We made a connection with him. This actually happened to me this morning at 7 o'clock. I was on the elevator down for breakfast. Then he looked at me and he said, "You working today?" Now, it's Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. We're wearing dress clothes. No, I'm going to the beach. It's the context. But because I got a point out of that, Alan fed me something, so he became the straight guy. He did. Theoretically. But on comedy, a lot of times, think about the Three Stooges. Were they all funny? No, it was slapstick humor. But if you look at a lot of the great comical teams, one of them's the straight guy, and he's doing the setup for the guy for the punchline. So he gave me the setup for the punchline that we then wove into the story. If you think about, and I'm going to use Mark again. Think about most of the stories he was telling. They were personal. They connected with us. And he took it all within the structure of what he was trying to do. I was doing a TLI, Toastmasters Leadership Institute. If anybody doesn't know what it is, you might want to go to one. I hear they might give you an award or something like that. We had a speaker that year, and it was a 20-minute session. She had 42 slides. Now, as the moderator of this, I'm left with a very difficult position because this person has multiple distinguished Toastmaster awards. You know, that don't time me thing. And we've known time and again that she might run a little over and over. And I said, "Ma'am," now she's from the north, and so she immediately got kind of ill at me for saying ma'am. But I'm a little southern, and so normally when I get ill at somebody being ma'am, I just ma'am it out. I mean, it's a ma'am this, a ma'am that. Yes, ma'am, yes, yeah. But I had to say, we need to shrink this down. Compare that to Mark's slides. How many slides do you have? 10, 12? And he spoke for an hour. Well, 50, yeah, about an hour. But every one of his slides was not, "We determine all these truths to be self-evident." He wasn't reading a slide. What did he do? He made a joke. "See, I had hair." Mm-hmm. That was the point. He was not using the slide to tell the story. He was using the slide to accent the story. So suddenly we were all in Jamaica. I won't try the accent because I'm bad at it. In fact, I found out recently from District 58 that when I did the 12 days of Cajun Christmas, they thought I was from Jamaica. So that told me a lot about my accent. But he wasn't driving the story with the slides. Everybody in the room knows that most of the TLI slides that come from international are about as dry as Melba toast. You almost have to be a comic to get through them sometimes. But if you use them as a reference point, then suddenly the audience is with you, because they can always go back and get the slides, right? You know, you don't need to read out all the links, etc. But from a comedy standpoint, you can do what we did. We can use it as a jumping off point to tell a moral, to tell a story. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do, because you've got a context. Otherwise, it's just somebody up on a stage rambling, which has happened to me as well, by the way. And next year's budget, we're going to put cue cards in there. So therefore, when someone gets stuck on stage for an hour, they actually could say why I'm stuck on stage for an hour. Now, look around the room. half of you were smiling, and a third of you went, huh? Why? Context. Bernie, you get one. Of course, you have an advantage because we're going to hear you regardless. But it's about the context. It is all about the context. Sharon, you want to take one?
Sure, let's give it a try.
You get out of your car and the ground starts getting really, really mushy. And you find a stone in a swamp. What do you do?
The ground is mushy and I find a stone in the
Swamp.
in the swamp. What do I do? First of all, I got to figure out how the heck did I get to this swamp? I thought I was supposed to be en route to Greenville, and now I'm in a swamp. Nonetheless, maybe it's providence that that stone might be worth something. Even though the ground is soggy, I'm praying it's not quicksand. Why would I still want to get to that stone? Does the greedy side of me say, to heck with it, forge ahead, grab the stone, it could change your future? Or do I tell myself, girlfriend, you're wearing these stiletto shoes, you know they'll be no good if you keep on walking into that mud. I decided to go the greedy route because after all, this might change my life. So I slog through the soft ground with my beautiful stilettos, red, don't you know, reach down to pick up the stone, and by golly, it does look like something valuable. I think I've made the right decision. Slog back to the car and rush off to the first appraiser. Let's see what happens. Back to you, Trent.
Thanks, Sharon. Now, I did put Sharon on the spot right there, didn't I? But I also wanted to show something that's relevant. Everybody in person here gets the three-dimensional experience, right? She's on Zoom. You almost have to be like William Shatner. Anybody not know who William Shatner is? Everybody does? Yes. Marvelous. You know what the biggest critique of William Shatner was? Fire! He was trained as a Shakespearean actor, so he had to overdo it every time. Zoom is a little like William Shatner, isn't it? It's too easy to face mute, disconnect. You almost have to flap your arms around. Please don't do that. It looks kind of silly. Unless the story's about chickens. See, that's context, right? But it is talking about this. It is the context of what we're trying to talk about. There's many types of humor. There's storytelling humor. There's one-liners. There's witty repartee, unless you're in France, and then it's still witty repartee. Again, don't double down. You see, that wasn't funny, was it? Now, this is a good tasty nugget. We were in Paris for training, and Charles Gates was RRA. I'll get that right one of these years. And they were having a special time, and he brought his daughters to Paris. And we were right between sessions, and his daughters came back in the door, and he looked at them and said, "Where'd y'all eat?" And they held up a bag from McDonald's. The look on Charles Gates's face was priceless. You're in the city of lights with all of these great bistros, and they went for comfort food. They didn't want to have brioche. They didn't want to have anything like that. They didn't want to have Italian spaghetti. They wanted a hamburger. But the context was that. Because in their mind, that was what they chose. He was the one with an expectation. The thing that will hurt you the most in comedy, in my opinion, is expectations. If I walk into a place and I start telling a technical funny, I'm going to lose part of my audience. Anybody remember Geneva Anderson? Geneva Anderson was a powerhouse in this district for many, many years. And one time I was giving a speech, and the speech was on network LAN connectivity. Now, Geneva is one of those people that she had a clock that was blinking a lot on her VCR, right? She didn't know technology. She didn't do technology. She didn't care about technology. She was my evaluator. It was one of the best evaluations I've ever gotten. And it was so important, not because she was a techno nerd like myself and Michael. Sorry, you are. But she still had this ability to craft a narrative in the evaluation. She wasn't talking about the topic of my speech nearly as much as the content and the context. And that has a lot to do with humor. She was funny. She admitted in the first 5 seconds that she doesn't know technology. But instead of it taking the audience and removing them, she brought them all in. She had the hook in the first 5 seconds. And the entire audience was hers for the rest of the evaluation, because she admitted she wasn't a techno nerd, but the point of the speech wasn't to be a techno nerd. And so she rolled into the structure, the beginning, the middle, the end. Did I say what I was going to say? Did I say it? And did I say what I have said? Anybody know what NASA stands for? You're getting a record today. He's correct. You know what one of their guiding principles is? The rule of 3. Oh, Douglas, did you have something? It's the rule of 3.
No, I was going to give you the answer to NASA when you beat me to it.
Well, you know, Douglas actually is a rocket scientist, so it is the rule of 3s. The first one may break, the second one may break, but the third one probably won't break because the first 2 had to break first. I do believe it was Apollo 13, right? If they hadn't had the rule of 3, that would have been a really, really bad day for some people. All right, somebody on the audience, you want to try one? Sorry, somebody on the Zoom call. See, this is sometimes what happens. You get absolute quiet.
Sure, Trent, I will try it.
Marvelous. You are a beat cop in the urban town, and you're chasing a miscreant. That's someone who's not real good, by the way. And you're chasing them through the streets, and you see them raise up this grate and jump down, and you hear a splash. They've jumped in the sewer. What do you do?
Seeing as how, Trent, I am actually from New York, I will look at that grate and I'll say they've got to come up somewhere. Somehow they've got to come up. There is no way I'm going there down in that sewer, a New York City urban sewer. You must be kidding. I'll wait. The stench alone will have them coming up sooner rather than later. So instead of me wasting my breath, wasting my time, I'll go here, sit in my ride, and just wait. Because you know what? I got better things to do than chase after miscreants in urban New York City sewers. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. And what club are you? And what club are you a member of?
I'm a member of several clubs. I am a member of the Sound Off Toastmasters Club, as well as the Midlands Leadership Club. And perhaps because I'm on Zoom, I have found out I may be a William Shatner.
So anybody that's in one of those clubs or around that, if you could please bring that to her. To wrap it up, because I'm out of time, humor is what you make of it. Humor is not a static thing. Humor is about context. Humor is often about the connection you make with other people. There's many types of humor. There's dry humor. There's funny humor. There's humor you should not say at a Toastmasters meeting as well. That happens. Again, thank you for the time. Oh,